Imagine a man who rarely speaks in front of the camera, avoids interviews, and just when the world thinks he's disappeared, he suddenly reappears, making headlines worth millions. That's Brock Lesnar, a terrifying beast inside the ring and an incredibly mysterious man outside of it. People consider him one of WWE's most powerful superstars, but very few know about his real life, his home, his cars, his wealth, and his lifestyle. Brock Lesnar's life is nothing short of a movie. A man who journeyed from college wrestling to WWE, then UFC, and back to WWE. But the question is, what kind of life does he lead after achieving so much fame and fortune? Does he live a life of luxury and extravagance like other celebrities? Or is his life as quiet as he appears to be? It is said that Brock Lesnar lives away from the hustle and bustle of cities, in a place where no one can recognize him. His car collection suggests that he understands not only power but also class. And when it comes to net worth, Brock Lesnar's earnings in 2026 are not limited to wrestling alone. There are many hidden deals and decisions behind it that you may have never heard of before. In this video, we will show you Brock Lesnar's life away from the cameras, the house, the cars, and the mindset that sets him apart from everyone else. And one thing that will become clear at the end of this video is why Brock Lesnar is actually so quiet. Before we proceed with the video, please subscribe to the channel so you can be the first to watch such videos. To truly understand Brock Lesnar's story, we must begin not with glitz and glamour, but with a very ordinary life. Brock Lesnar was born on July 12, 1977, in Webster, a small town in the state of South Dakota, USA. This isn't a large or famous city. Most people here are involved in farming or other small-scale work. Brock's family was just like that, ordinary and hard-working. His father was Richard Lesnar, who worked on a dairy farm, and his mother was Stephanie Lesnar, who managed the household and took care of the family. There was no pretense in their home, just daily work, responsibility, and discipline. Brock was one of 4 siblings. From a young age, he had to work on the farm, lifting heavy objects, waking up early, and doing physical labor were all part of his daily routine. At that time, no one knew that he would become a big name in the future, nor did Brock himself ever harbor such expectations. His life was simple: work, get tired, and then do the same thing the next day. As for his education, Brock attended Webster High School. He went to school, but he wasn't particularly interested in academics. He preferred being on the sports field to sitting in a classroom reading books. Even during his school days, his physique was stronger than that of other children, and it was here that he began participating in sports like wrestling and football. In high school, wrestling changed the course of his life. He performed well in wrestling at the school level and won many matches. This is where he first realized that his strength and hard work were paying off. The sport taught him discipline, waking up on time, practicing, accepting defeat, and remaining humble even after victory. After finishing school, Brock enrolled in Bismarck State College. Here, too, he chose wrestling. The matches at the college level were not easy. In every match, he had to face players who were older and more experienced than him. But this is where his real training took place. He suffered injuries, lost matches, but he never thought about giving up the sport. In college wrestling, his daily routine was very strict. Waking up early, hours of physical training, then wrestling practice, and after that, working on fitness. There was no star treatment here. If your performance wasn't good, you were benched. It was in this environment that Brock honed his skills. His greatest strengths were physical strength combined with quick reflexes and control. People started noticing for the first time that this guy wasn't just strong, but also a very quick learner. After Bismarck State College, Brock transferred to the University of Minnesota. This is where his true identity as a college wrestler began to take shape. The Minnesota wrestling team was already considered quite strong, and it wasn't easy to get a place there. But Brock proved through hard work that he deserved to be on the team. The training became even more difficult, the competitions even tougher. But it was during this period that his confidence grew rapidly. While at the University of Minnesota, Brock consistently performed well, and in 2000, he won the NCAA Heavyweight Wrestling Championship. This was the first major achievement of his life. It was here that people at the national level first realized that this guy is different. Not just because of the win, but because of his style of play. Fast, powerful, and fearless. After this victory, Brock Lesnar became a serious name in the world of college wrestling. Coaches, players, and people associated with sports understood that he was not just a wrestler who would be limited to college. This is where Brock's career got a clear direction, and this was the turning point from where bigger paths like WWE and UFC began to open up. Entry into WWE and sudden fame. After his big win in college wrestling, the next question for Brock Lesnar was clear. What next? At that time, WWE noticed him. WWE was looking for an athlete who was not only big in appearance, but also possessed real strength and a strong background. Brock's college wrestling record and his physical strength both impressed WWE, and based on this, he was signed to WWE's developmental system in 2000. The beginning was not easy at all. The WWE environment was completely different from college wrestling. Here, winning matches wasn't enough. Presenting himself in front of the cameras, performing in front of the crowd, and handling the pressure of live television were equally important. This was new for Brock. He was a man of few words, and the world of WWE was a place of noise, lights, and constant attention. Initially, there was fear. What if he made a mistake? What if he failed on live TV? But he did what he knew best, quietly put in the hard work. When Brock Lesnar debuted on the WWE main roster in 2002, it quickly became clear that he was no ordinary wrestler. His physique, his speed, and his strength were unlike anyone else's. In the ring, he seemed to be playing at a completely different level. WWE also quickly realized that this man needed to be fast-tracked to the top. Within a few months of his debut, Brock started defeating big names. It was surprising for the audience, a new guy, and rising to the top so quickly. In 2002, he won the WWE Championship, becoming the youngest champion to do so. This was the moment that suddenly changed his life. This is where the real shock of fame hit. The man who until yesterday was quietly practicing in the training room was now appearing on TV every week. Name, money, and power. All three came together. Big contracts, media attention, and fan expectations, everything happened very quickly. But with this speed came an equally immense amount of pressure. The most difficult thing for Brock was managing this sudden fame. Everyone in WWE expected him to do something special every week. Losing didn't just mean losing a match, but also damaging the storyline. That's why his matches were very short, but impactful. WWE presented him as a force of nature, a man of few words but dangerous in the ring. Becoming such a big star at such a young age is not something everyone can handle. Some people get carried away by this fame, but Brock's focus was clear: work and results. Yet, the pressure was building up inside. The WWE, schedule, constant travel, and being in front of the cameras all the time, all of this went against his nature. Pressure, fatigue, and the decision to leave WWE. The rapid success in WWE, which looked so great from the outside, was proving to be incredibly heavy from the inside. Brock Lesnar had become the biggest face of the company in a very short time. Big matches, big opponents, and the expectation of doing something new every week. But with this fame, one thing was constantly increasing: mental pressure, constant travel, live TV every week, working through injuries, and the compulsion to always be at the top. Despite the victories, the fatigue was growing. Brock's nature has always been quiet and private. The WWE environment was the complete opposite. Cameras everywhere, interviews, promotions, and crowds. Gradually, all of this started to weigh heavily on him. His body was tired, and so was his mind. There was no time for injuries to heal, but there was also no option to stop. Everything looked fine from the outside, but frustration was building up inside. This was burnout, which very few people understood at the time. In 2004, Brock made a decision that shocked everyone. At the peak of his career, he decided to leave WWE. This decision was neither easy nor safe. Leaving WWE meant putting guaranteed money, fame, and recognition on the line. At the time, most people thought he was taking a huge risk. Some said he couldn't handle the pressure. Others said his career would be over. But for Brock, this decision was necessary because he felt he was losing himself in the fast-paced world of professional wrestling. After leaving WWE, Brock chose an even more dangerous path: UFC. Here, there are no scripts, no predetermined wins. Every match is real, and the price of a mistake is paid with physical injury. Critics openly said that a pro wrestler wouldn't last in real fighting. People thought it was just a publicity stunt. His start in the UFC wasn't easy. The training was completely different. It required not just strength, but also stamina, technique, and endurance. Brock worked hard, but injuries continued to plague him. A serious illness and several injuries repeatedly interrupted his career. Coming back each time wasn't easy, but he refused to give up. In the UFC, he experienced both wins and losses. In some fights, he proved everyone wrong, while in others, he suffered clear defeats. But his goal here wasn't just to make money. It was a battle to prove himself, to himself and to the world. In every match, the question was whether he was truly cut out for this level of competition. This was the difference between WWE and UFC. In WWE, he was a superstar, but in UFC, he had to prove himself again in every match. Criticism, fear, and physical pain, everything was real. This period made Brock Lesnar mentally stronger. The decision to leave WWE and go to UFC was extremely risky, but these decisions are what make his story unique. He chose the challenge instead of the safe path. He accepted both victory and defeat, and that's why his story is not just about fame, but about courage and making tough decisions. Return to WWE, a changed Brock Lesnar. When Brock Lesnar returned to WWE after UFC, he wasn't the same Brock. When he first came to WWE, there was more anger, passion, and speed. But upon his return, his demeanor was completely different. Now he was calmer, spoke less, and his mere presence in the ring instilled a different kind of fear. Without many words, he would put his opponent under pressure simply with his presence. This time, Brock didn't need to prove himself. He knew his strengths and how to use them. WWE also presented him not as before, but as a quiet yet extremely dangerous fighter. His matches were short but impactful. Finishing the match in just a few minutes and leaving the ring without much celebration, that became his new style. Fans could clearly see that this man was still the same, but more in control from within. The composure visible on his face after his return was his new aura. He didn't give long speeches on the microphone. When he spoke, he used few words, but got straight to the point. This made his words even more impactful. It seemed that this Brock was now fighting not only with strength, but also with experience. His attitude is also evident in his life outside the ring. Brock Lesnar has always maintained a distance from crowds and cameras. He doesn't live in a big city, but lives a quiet farm life in a secluded area. There's no pretense in their daily lives, no extravagant parties, no constant presence on social media. They value peace and quiet, and that's what keeps them grounded. Living on the farm, taking care of the animals, and staying connected to themselves, that's their real world. Staying away from the cameras isn't a necessity for them, but a choice. They know that being constantly surrounded by people can be exhausting. Perhaps that's why they give fewer interviews and maintain a distance from public life. Brock believes that the less you're seen, the greater the impact. This philosophy is evident in his approach to WWE as well. When he suddenly reappears in the ring after a long absence, he instantly commands attention. That's his strength. Minimal presence, but maximum impact. Car collection. Not flashy, but powerful. If someone thinks that Brock Lesnar's car collection is all about glitz, supercars, and showing off, they would be wrong. Brock Lesnar's car collection is like his personality. Minimalist, yet powerful. Far from ostentatious, but intimidating. For him, cars are not a way to show how much money he has, but a way to reflect the kind of person he is. Brock prefers cars that are strong, reliable, and can handle any situation when needed. His preferences lean towards large, heavy, and powerful vehicles rather than sports, cars, SUVs, and trucks, vehicles that have weight, power, and a commanding presence on the road. Looking at his vehicles, it's clear that he's not trying to attract attention or impress anyone. Among his most talked about cars are Jeeps and large American SUVs. These are vehicles that can handle off-road conditions, withstand rough terrain, and provide a sense of control when driving. Brock prefers cars that complement his farm life and quiet lifestyle. Bright colors, low-slung bodies, or excessive modifications. None of these are part of his taste. Another important point is that Brock Lesnar doesn't treat cars as collector's items. For him, a car is not a showpiece, but a tool. He sees a car as something for everyday use. Going to the farm, taking a solo drive, or going somewhere without anyone knowing. That's why his cars are practical, not just for photo opportunities. A common thread among his vehicles is that they look intimidating. Whether parked or driving on the road, their presence is felt, just like Brock Lesnar himself. He doesn't make a lot of noise, but people notice him. His cars give a similar feeling, low-key but impactful. For Brock, cars are also a symbol of freedom. He doesn't like public transport, drivers, or luxurious setups. Driving himself, being alone, and doing things his own way, that's his philosophy. Perhaps that's why he chooses cars that give him a sense of power and control while driving. His car collection also reflects his perspective on money. Many people chase expensive and rare cars after becoming wealthy, but Brock Lesnar doesn't. For him, money is a means of convenience, not a means of showing off. If a car is functional, robust, and reliable, that's enough. Ultimately, Brock Lesnar's cars clearly reflect his personality. Few, but powerful. No frills, just raw power. Practical yet intimidating. Just like he is in the ring, he's the same on the road. Not flashy, but making his presence felt. That's why his car collection, like him, is unique and memorable. The real math behind net worth and earnings in 2026. To understand Brock Lesnar's net worth in 2026, it's not enough to simply look at how many matches he's fought. His true earnings story is far deeper and more strategically planned. Brock's greatest strength has always been that he never relied solely on hard work, but rather made the right decisions at the right time. First, let's talk about WWE contracts. Brock Lesnar has never been a full-time wrestler. He chose contracts that involved less work, but significantly more money. A select few matches a year, but a hefty fee for each match. This is what sets him apart. If you like this video and want to see more such true in-depth stories, please subscribe to the channel. Like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We will continue to bring you more powerful and real stories like this.